Vibrate Higher Daily. Live Your Power by Layla Delia. Chapter 1. Another Way of Being. She remembered who she was, and the game changed. How do you thrive in a world that does not honor who and what you are at the most real level? And how is it okay that we have come to this? In a world that is ever evolving, expanding, and creating new and more advanced versions of just about everything, we are still unfulfilled as a species. We are still longing. We are still warring. We are still not at peace. And we are still searching for the meaning of life, for the key to a better life, and for higher purpose. Until we live from a place of connection to who and what we are, and what all things around us are, we are living out of harmony and beneath our inherent higher potential. A world living beneath its potential is what we have allowed planet Earth to become. Hence, why we see so much chaos, imbalance, and dis-ease. The good news is, there is another way of being in the world. There is a better way to exist, rise, move beyond, and take our power back. This is a deeper part of each of us beyond our race, ethnicity, gender, class, and appearance, a vital part. This is our vibration, a whole body energy always vibrating in response to the communicative connections between the mind, body, spirit, and all things. No matter where you're from, what your social class, or the color of your skin, vibration is vibration. We all feel it, and we're all affected by it in the same way. It's a universal thing. Everybody feels the effect of vibrations, and everyone is vibration. There's a pathway of higher potential and power that, when honored, transforms your reality and you. When it becomes the way you relate to all things in life, you are empowered. So instead of living a life of inducing or being continually affected by stress and negativity, I invite you to enter a life that reduces, overcomes, and transcends it. This book is here to encourage and support you while challenging you to expand your way of thinking, living, and being. In essence, it's a sacred disruption to the programming and consciousness you may have been living life from up to now, retrospectively speaking. If you are outgrowing who you've been, you're on the right schedule. Keep evolving. My story. Today, I no longer live in the consciousness that I used to, one where I identified as a victim who was stuck, powerless, and purposeless. The process I share in this book led to the reconfiguration of my entire life, my physical health, even reconfiguring my appearance. As I reflect on my journey and the experiences I've had with trauma, despair, domestic violence, emotional pain, heartbreak, a limited mindset, toxic relationships, and the sticky places I've been in and out of, I send myself love, not judgment. I do so because, at the time of these experiences, I didn't know about vibration. It was there all along, as it is in all, but I wasn't at a place where I could recognize it within myself. I was living and experiencing life through a lower vibration and a limited mindset. And as with vibrations, come the life experiences to match. When I was a young girl, I lived in the heart of South Central Los Angeles' war zone neighborhood, South Central as we called it. In our community, gang life, liquor stores, hustlers, broken dreams, flashy street styles, and beautiful people with unrealized higher potential existed on every street corner and stared back at you in passing. On a vibrational level, much was low. From the food quality to the education quality to the lack of wellness and self-development resources, the culture of lack within inner cities, such as where I grew up, has a direct adverse effect on the cultural tone and overall quality of life for masses of people and their personal and shared experiences. South Central Los Angeles in the 1980s and 1990s was a new kind of struggle and negative vortex for pretty much everyone there, and so much was contributing to it. It was a time when crime was at an all-time high, a world where we were fed low vibrations, masked as the norm, and where the culture was, as I came to realize, being underserved vibrationally. And as with most urban communities, still it was common for us youth growing up in that environment to create peer bonds through our pain. We were all seeking affirmation and validation of some kind from one another. I am grateful through it all that I had an advocate. I spent most of my childhood with my father, a man who was many things, an entrepreneur full of dreams, a transplant from New Mexico, and a practicing Buddhist here and there. My father's ability to keep a positive mindset and his pursuit of happiness while in the midst of such an environment as South Central had a deep foundational impact on me. No matter what went on in the war zone neighborhood surrounding us, my father always created good vibrations and a positive atmosphere in our home. He had a way of energetically turning our home into a sanctuary and a safe haven. My strongest memories about our home environment are of dancing in front of the television to Soul Train on beautiful Saturday afternoons, hearing lots of 70s and 80s soul records playing, laughing, the burning of incense, and feeling pure love. He knew how to turn up the vibes in this way and shift our atmosphere into something higher, lighter, and better for the soul. And sure enough, to this day, dancing around at home, music, laughter, incense, and love are some of the essential go-to medicines for my soul. Powerfully, they bring me back to myself every time. My father did the best he could with what he had to work with. Using his Buddhist mindset and his joy for life, he taught me the skills for navigating our surroundings and its potential traps. With a deep inner peace, a compassionate mindset, and a passion for progress, he instilled in me how to rise above our environment and the ability to see our situation and time there as temporary. Yet in spite of his most necessary, intentional, and urgent efforts to shelter me, including eventually moving out of South Central, I was, on many levels, still affected by the negative elements around us. The various effects felt close to unavoidable. What I didn't yet know was how to respond to high and low vibrations in my environment. At times, I'd find myself swaying, adapting, and conforming to both energies. Many of us feel this tension. We are all empathic to some degree, and not knowing how to listen to our inner power when outside forces are strong creates imbalance and strains our progress. Our past is a force that doesn't always like to see its end come, and our future is a force that doesn't want us to abort it. Competing worlds. Now, on one of my shoulders was my father, shaping me for a higher potential life beyond our environment at the time of the 80s and 90s inner city street culture. On the other shoulder was a collection of traumas. My initiation into the writing and work I do today was like it was for many others, through the path of pain and suffering. Even though my parents did the best they knew how to protect me, deep pain had entered my life in four main ways. Over a short period of time, I was sexually violated as a child by a trusted teenage caretaker. At the same time, my parents had divorced, and I was not adapting well to it. I slipped into a state of depression, so much so that at the age of 9, I told my mother I wanted to die because my family was broken. On top of all this, at the age of 5, I had been diagnosed with a form of epilepsy known as petit mal. Every time I came out of a seizure at school, I'd come back to a crowd of laughing children, many of whom mocked and bullied me without fail. This painfully humiliating time happened all throughout lower grade school, until I eventually and gratefully outgrew the seizures at the age of 12, and a very welcome healing it was. In addition to these early childhood traumas, I also experienced verbal abuse from my mother's fourth husband. He was a white man from a small town in the South who loved my Spanish mother but could do without her half-black children. Racial slurs were a norm to him. This period strained my relationship with my mother, a woman who loved her children dearly but had deep unprocessed pain of her own that was clouding her judgment. She would detest her husband's behavior one day with great apologies to me, and then dismiss it on another day. I never knew which type of day it would be. My time with my mother back then was in sharp contrast to the safe, functional, and comforting home life my father was providing for me. This was the epitome of low vibrations versus high vibrations in full effect. These collective experiences created deep depression in me as a child, teen, and young adult. I experienced regular stomach aches, poor digestion, anxiety, shortness of breath, panic attacks, and fatigue, and I was underweight. I acquired what John Bradshaw calls in his book Homecoming, Reclaiming and Healing Your Inner Child, a spiritual wound. I could never make sense of why I was so torn and at home in both worlds. One of the spiritual path of progress with my father, and the other of pain and anxiety with my mother. Later in life, the dots connected for me, and everything made sense. I came to see that my past had to be exactly what it was. The purpose and deep passion within me today that I use to advocate for higher potential living and healing for others are only possible because of the sum total of my combined past experiences. From trauma and pain to love, joy, and spirituality. From family financial struggle to affluence. I can relate to all of it. But it would take years for me to realize this, as there would first be great mountains to survive and overcome. Take a pause to appreciate how far you've come. Peace and blessings to you all.